I'm outside Westminster Kingsway College. I'm about to go in and meet Jose Souto for one of his game lectures and seminars.
So let's look at rabbits. So rabbits are available all year round. 1.5 kilos for rabbits. Rabbits were introduced by the Romans. Romans carried them around, they carried them around as food. Here in the Norman Conquest, basically we had them in the UK, and they had areas which basically had where they had rabbit warrens, and they'd have a guy that was in charge of looking after them. He was known as a warrener, and he would basically just look after the rabbits. So when they were fenced off in an area, they'd be let go in there, they'd dig holes, they'd set up their families in there, and obviously they'd breed, they'd bred like rabbits. So basically, and then what they'd do is they'd come along with ferrets, the ferrets would run down the hole. The ferret's job is to basically run down the hole and smell like a ferret, because rabbits, as soon as they smell the ferret, they're out of there, right? And they would catch them in nets, and obviously then they would be used for the dinner table. And obviously these rabbits escaped, and as they escaped, they started accumulating and breeding and stuff like that. Now, some enterprising English people went over to Australia and decided that they'd take the rabbits with them and let a few rabbits go to Australia. What could be less harmful than that? Well, there's not a lot of natural predators for rabbits out in Australia, and it ended up with a mass epidemic of rabbits out in Australia. It's ridiculous. And you see some of the pictures, if you go on the internet, you see some of the pictures of rabbits out there. There were millions of them. So out in Australia, they developed something to basically sort of counteract those rabbits, and that was the disease myxomatosis. Myxomatosis is a disease that affects the flea that lives on the rabbit. And what that flea does is when a flea basically bites, it injects an anticoagulant into you to stop the blood clotting so that it can take its fill. And that anticoagulant contained the virus, the myxomatosis virus, which would go into the rabbit and it infected the rabbit. Now, any flea that took a basically blood drink from there was also then becoming basically infected with the myxomatosis virus and then passing from rabbit to rabbit. So every rabbit that was bitten by a flea, or the fleas basically going from rabbit to rabbit, would infect other rabbits. Now, myxomatosis is a horrible disease. I mean, when you see the rabbits, they basically, their eyes bulge, they end up all pussy, they lose all weight, they're just walking around aimlessly in sort of like, when you see them on the sides of the roads, and they just waste away to nothing. It's a really horrible disease. But in actual parts of Ireland, in Australia, if you had myxomatosis on your land, it was a great money-making thing, because what you did is you caught the rabbits had myxomatosis and you'd sell them to another farmer, and the farmer would take them and shut them down another hole to basically infect all their rabbits, because they found it as a way of controlling the rabbits. So nowadays, lots of rabbits have got over myxomatosis, and sometimes you'll find a rabbit, and when you look at the back of the ears, just on the back of the ears, you'll see like little scabs on the back of the ears, and those scabs show that basically the rabbit has had myxomatosis but got over it. And they quite a lot of them get over it now. They don't basically suffer from it. What we have had recently in the last few years is Chinese rabbit fever, which is even worse than basically myxomatosis, because what it does do, rabbits don't get over it. When they get it, they bleed from every orifice. It's sort of like an Ebola for rabbits, and it kills them. And not only does it affect rabbits, but it's also starting to affect hares. And hares and rabbits are cousins. They're not directly related, they're just cousins. So it's sort of a bit like saying that you've got a roe deer and a red deer, right? They're both deer, but they're not directly related.
Can you get, like, if they have those diseases, can you get it?
No.
Okay.
No. If a rabbit has myxomatosis and you ate it, it made no difference. And to tell you the truth, in the early stages of myxomatosis, you wouldn't even know that it's got it. So basically, it's later on, you wouldn't eat one. If you saw one, you wouldn't eat it. Because they're horrible. The way this come. But rabbits numbers are starting to come back a little bit. We're not seeing as much Chinese rabbit fever in the last few years as we had right at the beginning when it first hit. So hopefully it'll start to come back. But there used to be a stage where you could get rabbits anywhere, and rabbits were really inexpensive. Like, you pay £1 for a whole rabbit. £1 for a whole rabbit is nothing. Because 2 or 3 good meals out of a rabbit. Especially in a restaurant. And in places like Spain, Italy, France, a rabbit is seen as a real delicacy, and they use it a heck of a lot, and very sort of like a peasant sort of food, because it was basically a food that was readily available to them. Our rabbits are, because they're larger, they don't really have the flavour that you would find in Italian, Spanish, other rabbits. The other rabbits tend to have more flavour because they're out on the hill eating things like thyme, oregano, natural wild herbs, whereas our rabbits tend to be a lot of pasture, so they grow really big, but they haven't got the nice flavours. But then you can add things to them. I mean, there's a great dish which is called conejo al ajillo, which is rabbit with garlic and red wine, white wine. really simple Spanish dish, and all they do is they take a load of garlic, and I mean a load, 2 heads of garlic for 1 or 2 rabbits, and they just crush all of the bulbs. They don't take the skin off, just crush them, and then they fry them in a good amount of olive oil. I mean, I'm talking about that amount, virgin olive oil. Just fry it in that until they go golden brown. Take them out, and then you take your jointed rabbit, drop your jointed rabbit in. Start with the legs. Fry the legs off. Fry the loins off. Take it all out. You throw the garlic back in. Then you throw the legs back in first. Then you add a bottle of white wine. A little bit of stock, some thyme. And you just put a lid on it and you leave it. And just let it cook, let it braise away. And then after about sort of like 35-40 minutes, then you add the back, if you like, the loin, because the loin it's more tender. So therefore, if you add it at the beginning, what happens by the time the legs are cooked, the loin's dry. So you add it like that, and then you just let it cook away until the meat's nice and soft. And once the meat's nice and soft, then by that time it will have reduced down, the liquid will have reduced down, and the garlic basically breaks down to like a paste, and it creates like a white milky sauce. So then what you do is you take all the rabbit out, you pass the garlic through a sieve, and basically pull the liquid through the sieve as well. And obviously just press the garlic through so all that paste goes through, and then you just reduce it down slightly, put the rabbit back in and serve it. And normally they serve it with chips cooked in olive oil, which is delicious. It's a real peasant's food, but it's absolutely delicious. From So with rabbits, basically they've got short front legs and a small back foot in comparison to a hare. The colours are basically a grey brown, and the underbellies are normally white. The ears are large, short ears, big ears but short and upright, and then the tail is basically a short flat tail with a white tip on it, by the back. Hares. So hares are available all year round. Now, out of a rabbit and hare, the rabbit is not considered game because it's available all year round. That can be taken any time. The hare is considered game, right? Because the hare basically, the reason being is because sort of the gentry that basically were starting off with things like with shooting, they're the people that basically made them out of shooting. They wanted to protect their game, their ability to be able to go out and shoot things and stuff like that, and also their ability to be able to run dogs on hares. So because they were doing all that sort of stuff, they then put some rules in, and also the church, because the church in this country basically what it wanted to do is the church wanted to ensure that everybody went to mass on a Sunday. So that's why basically all game cannot be shot on a Sunday. Animals that are not considered game can be shot at any time. So with hares, basically, they're not basically, you don't sell them, not allowed to hunt them on Sundays or Christmas Day because everybody was in church. And with during March and July, the reason we don't do it through March and July because that's the time of year when the hares are breeding. And what happens is that basically you get all the daddy hares that basically go out into one big field, and there'll be a mummy hare there, and the mummy hare is ready to basically get it on, and all the daddy hares just beat the hell out of each other, right? And because they're so busy beating the hell out of each other, they won't even notice if you walk up to them and shoot them, right? So it's really unfair to basically shoot hares. Like you'll have like 15 to 20 hares just running around chasing each other, exhausting each other in the middle of the field. So it's really easy. So it's unsportingly to basically shoot that time of year. So that's when they're breeding, so you just leave them alone. So from March to July, they must not be sold. So you could shoot one, I suppose, basically for pest control reasons, but you can't sell them. So if you take away the fact that they're worth any money, then less people shoot. That's the reason. A lot of these are antiquated laws, but weight anything between 3 and 5 kilos. Right? I mean, a 10 pound in weight. They're big animals. It can be some really big animals. I mean, this one here is a smallish one. It's not particularly big one. It's a young hare, and there you get some really, really big ones. So basically, what we've got is short front legs and a very, very large back foot. The fur is greyish, and it basically it can have a white underbelly. The more curly the fur on the back, the older the hair. The lighter the colour of the hair and the straighter it is, the younger the hair. If you look at the feet, if the claws are protruding the fur, it's an older hair. If the claws are within the fur, it's a young hair. And then when you you look at the mouth and the teeth, if the teeth, basically like any sort of these sorts of animals, they wear their teeth away. So the longer the teeth, they're sticking down and they're discoloured, it's an older animal. The shorter and the whiter they are, it's a younger animal. So different ways of basically which you know how the age of the hair. And the ears are very long, upright, and they've got black tips as opposed to basically rabbits. The rabbit hasn't got any black tips on these, whereas he's got black tips on the top of them. And then with the tail, they've got a very, very long tail, yeah, and they're black and white, the same as a rabbit, but it's much, much longer and larger tail. Okay, any questions?
Do you have to wait for those, like you would sometimes with the birds?
With all animals, you just shoot them, give them a day. Yeah, I would say, right, we give them a day, and normally the game dealers basically they would have done that anyway, because the animals would come in by the time they pick them up and everything. By the time you get them, they're ready to go. Yeah, but at the beginning, I would give them a day to just allow them to relax.